Hey, congratulations on making it this far. I'm Tim. I'm your sociology instructor. If you're seeing this video, that means you've already completed both the introductory assignment and the first reading quiz. So now you have access to this interactive video, and I record these videos and I make them interactive. So that means they'll pause here and there, um, just to keep you engaged. So you're not putting the video on mute and watching the Real Housewives or ball game or whatever you might be doing other than listening to the video. So, the point of the interactive videos are just to keep you engaged, and just, yeah, keep you engaged with the video. So that's how they're going to work. They are for a grade, but they're basically a participation grade. I mean, unless you're answering things that are totally off the wall and don't make any sense, then you're probably going to get full credit for all of the interactive videos. As long as you're participating in them and getting them done on time, then you're not going to have any problem with them. So for this first one, most of what we want to do is we just want to look at Blackboard and the syllabus and just go over a couple of things. And then we'll also touch on that reading real briefly. So let's get started. So first off, here's Blackboard. So, and actually I'm going to make it so I'm seeing just what you guys see. So this is what you're going to see when you open up the page. You've got the announcement about the introductory assignment. Of course, you've already done that because you're here. So I want us to go ahead and start by looking at the syllabus real quick. So the syllabus is over here on the left, and then it is attached there. And we'll download, and then you can open it right up. All right, so my office is in building 1, office 8. It's in a little sub hallway off the main hallway, so I'm a little bit hard to find, but just look for the sign that says Suite 44 through 8 or Suite 48. My office hours are listed there. I am available at other times, but you got to email me. I also spend a lot of time off campus because I teach at high schools. I teach at Columbia High School. It's like an hour away, so sometimes I'm not on campus, but I am on campus a lot. So if you email me, if I will always be in my office on these in my office hours. But if you need to meet at a time outside of those, just send me an email and we'll set up a time. Most of this, I think I made you read those student learning outcomes in the quiz, so I know you're familiar with those. I'll touch briefly on this time commitment. 6 hours each week is the amount of time that you're kind of expected to budget for a 3 credit hour course. So that would be, if it was a traditional seated format, you would be expected to spend at least 1 hour each week outside of class for every hour of class that you're sitting in class, if that makes any sense. So if it's a 3 credit hour course, that means you're receiving instruction for 3 hours. And then there would be another 3 hours each week where you're expected to be doing readings or homework assignments and that kind of thing. So if you budget 6 hours each week for this class, then you're going to be fine. And you're going to do well. Due dates, yes. Assignments are always going to be due on Sunday night. So it's really important that you get those reading quizzes done ahead of time. If you wait until 9 o'clock on Sunday night to do the reading quiz, you might be really upset when you see that there's a lecture that you have to go through and then maybe even another activity for you. So get that done ahead of time as early as you can so you can see what you've got heading into the rest of the week. I do give you the opportunity to budget it how you see fit. So budget that time how you see fit. So if you want to do all the work on the weekend, that's fine. I'm comfortable with that. But just know that if you don't do the reading quiz until Sunday afternoon, then you might be looking at a long day as nothing but sociology. And very few people want that. If you do get into a situation where you're not going to be able to get the work done on time, I'm going to be pretty understanding about that the first time or two it happens. But I don't need you to make up a story. If you just own it and you say, hey, I dropped the ball and I didn't get started on time and I'm not going to be able to finish it by the deadline, I'll probably work with you almost every time until it becomes a pattern. If it happens a couple of times or 3 times, then I'm going to start maybe coming down a little harder on you. But for the most part, if you're just communicating with me and you're being honest with me, I'm almost always going to work with you. But once the deadline to turn it in has passed, there's very little that I'll be able to do for you. So just communicate with me. Just show me that you were working on it ahead of time, and even if you ran out of time, that's okay. Just let me know, and then try not to let it happen again. The current events reports, we'll talk a little bit more as as they come a little bit closer. You see here we've got the link to the textbook. You can get a physical copy if you prefer, but it is for free online. And the one thing I'll say about this textbook is it's dated. It's it's over 10 years old now, or about 10 years old now. So some of the pictures, like in the first chapter, there's, like the first page is a big picture of the 2008 election. So you got Barack Obama and John McCain. So it feels a little dated, right? That was kind of a long time ago now. But the actual principles of sociology haven't really changed much in that time. So it works, and it's free. So it's not perfect, it's not ideal, but it's free. So it's the one we're sticking with. It feels like I probably shouldn't have to say this, but this is an online course, so having reliable internet access and a computer is really important. Technology issues, if you're taking an online course, then technology issues are almost never an excuse for not getting your work done, because you know what you're getting into and you're taking this online course. We've got computers here on campus at the library. If anything happens and you need to work on campus or public libraries, whatever you got to do to get to a computer that's working, if yours is on the fritz, you got to do it. You got to get to a computer. You got to have internet. We'll look at the topics and assignments, and you see the grading breakdown there. It's 50% weekly assignments, and then 50% special assignments, papers, and the current events reports in your 2 exams. It is a cumulative final exam, but I don't want you to fret too much about that, because we're going to take a whole week to review it. It's not designed to be punitive. I'm not trying to punish you, but I do want the folks that do well in this class, I want them to be able to know what sociology is and be able to talk about it. That's just important to me. So I wanted to be a cumulative final exam, so we can go back to some of the stuff that we're going to cover early in the semester that's really important to a basic understanding of just the very fundamentals of sociology. You got the attendance policy there. It's the same as everything. Every class you're going to take has this attendance policy, the 14 consecutive days rule. If you haven't participated in this class for 14 straight days, you can be withdrawn from the class. So if you reach out to me and let me know something that's going on, then again, I'll work with you. I'll almost always work with you if you're reaching out to me in advance, if you're being proactive. I'm always going to listen. But if 3 weeks goes by, 4 weeks goes by, and I haven't heard from you, then of course, yeah, it's in your interest that you get a W instead of an F. So that's what we're going to do. So pay attention to that last day to withdrawal deadline too. But that's all stuff that's true for all your college courses. So let's look a little bit more specifically at our stuff. So here's the course schedule. Get that opened up. There we are. Here we are in week 1. So we've got the reading quiz and just the interactive lecture. And that's it. So once you get through this lecture, you're done for the week. And next week, we'll actually get into the textbook, and we'll do a little discussion board there. So while I'm thinking about discussion boards, navigating to it is a little bit trickier. I'm going to try to find the way to make this a little easier for you to get to. But for now, if you go over here to other course tools, you'll find the discussion boards listed there. And there's a post here for an opportunity to post any kind of general course questions. And these are things that you can post to the whole class. You can get help from your classmates or from me. Everybody will be able to read these. You can tell jokes. Decorum isn't necessary in this discussion board post. I want this to be just kind of a free flow of ideas. And so any good stories or articles that you want to share, feel free. Whatever you want to post here, there's very few rules. So it is there for you to just always have something to go to where you can interact with me or your classmates. If it's something you don't want everybody to see, of course, you can email me. There's always that option. All right, so that's the general thing of how the course is going to go. Of course, if there's any questions, it's all in the syllabus, all the due dates. I should say on this schedule that this is all likely to change. Probably around February, around the midterm, I'll do a little mid-semester survey and see how things are going. And I will listen to your feedback. If you think these interactive lectures are terrible, I'll try to do something to switch them up, or maybe get rid of them altogether. I don't know. I'll listen to your feedback, and if things aren't going well, then you let me know, and we'll try to switch it up. But just know that this schedule is likely to change, but I will always let you know when it changes. And just while I got you here, note that next week I give you the extra day, so no one's having to turn in work in the middle of a holiday weekend. I won't do any grading that Monday, so I'm not going to ask you to turn in anything in that Sunday night. So it'll all be there for me when I get to the office on Tuesday, and that's when I'll get to it. So next week and next week only, you have an extra day to get your work done, thanks to the holiday weekend. So now let's talk about that reading. I asked you the question in the reading quiz, what the difference between a sociological question and a non-sociological question was. And a sociological question takes the focus off of the individual, right? We're looking at the societal contributors to individual action. Now, of course, that's not everything. And so I want to start with this big caveat that there's a big criticism of sociology, especially introductory level sociology classes, that we don't hold individuals accountable for their own actions. And that's not necessarily the case. We just want to look at what societal contributors do exist. But that is not to ignore something that we call agency, right? So I don't want to give you the impression that we are this. We're just these pincushions, and human beings are just passive players getting poked and prodded by the facts of life, right? We have varying amounts of ability to navigate the social structures we come into, right? So this is not what I want us to think. Don't think we're pincushions. Don't think that we just take what society gives us and that's all that we have, right? We're not simply just these pincushions. We have something called agency. Now, agency is a bit of a next level sociological concept, right? So basically what we're saying is, the question posed here, structure, agency, or both? And the answer is clearly both, right? There are social structures that influence our individual behavior, and we also have varying amounts of ability to navigate those social structures and be who we want to be and do what we want to do. Where agency comes from is a little bit more complicated as a concept. And so it's something that you won't really encounter, maybe a little bit if you go on to take social problems. And then if you get a sociology minor or a sociology major, then you really talk a lot more about this idea of agency. But for an introductory level class, we're really going to be focusing right here on the social structure side of things. Those are those pre-existing social arrangements that shape behavior, right? So if we're talking about, a car thief, we absolutely should hold someone who steals a car should absolutely be held accountable for stealing that car, right? But that doesn't mean we shouldn't also ask the question of why the person stole the car and what societal contributors there were, if any, to that person stealing the car. Because more than one person steals the car, so we're not worried about necessarily the individual behavior, but the pattern of car thieves in general, right? So psychology tends to deal specifically with that individual behavior, individual motivations, and that sort of thing. For sociology, we're really dealing with the external influences and how those external influences can influence behavior. So I don't want you to think that that this is a course where no one's held accountable and that, society causes all the problems and human beings are not responsible for anything that they do. That's not the case. However, society does have a role to play. Right, so when we're looking at patterns of behavior, what happened in one specific instance of domestic violence to a sociologist isn't as important as the pattern of domestic violence, or what we now call intimate partner violence. Don't get too caught up in the nomenclature. It means the same thing. But when we talk about those incidents, we're looking for patterns. We're seeing what are the contributing factors. How often is alcoholism involved? How often is poverty involved? How often are other situations involved that might contribute to this pattern of intimate partner violence or domestic violence? Those are the things that we're concerned about. The mental health of the people involved, not necessarily the sociologist's concern. It is a concern. It is worth worrying about, but that's the thing you're going to worry about more like in a psychology class. For our purposes, we are looking at overall social patterns. But that's the key word, patterns. We are looking for patterns of action, right? One event does not a pattern make. So what happened in one specific instance of domestic violence or intimate partner violence, that's not really our concern. We want to see what factors have contributed to a multitude of these events and see, so we can sort of maybe address that problem from a structural perspective as opposed to sort of an individual interventionist sort of perspective. Both are important, and we're going to talk next week about macro level and micro level, so taking big picture views versus really narrow views. And we're going to talk about how those views are connected, and that's a big principle in sociology we call the sociological imagination. But we'll get to that next week. For now, I just want you to know that we are worried about social structure, and we are worried about what society, the big S society, tells us and how that influences our behavior. But I don't want you to think that we are simply pincushions just being poked and prodded by the facts of life. We have an ability to navigate the social structures that comes from different places. And again, the theory behind where agency comes from gets super complicated and actually a little bit controversial within sociology. So we don't even worry about that in this class. What we're focused on are those social structures, and those are the things that we're going to talk about throughout this semester. So I want to include that caveat, right? That we do have agency, that we do have the ability to not just be passive actors in our own lives. So that's week one. Congratulations. Thanks for listening. I hope it was well. Give me some feedback. Feel free, even in the discussion board post, if you want to make fun of me a little bit in the discussion board. I'm perfectly comfortable with that. I can take it. Help me improve, right? Try to be constructive if you can, but even if it's just for laughs, that's okay too. But I'd love to hear from you. Email me, write a discussion board post, come by and see me in Office 1. Check this out. I got a bunch of cookies like these from one of my crazy cousins for Christmas, like way too many of these cookies. So if you come by in the next week or so, I got mad cookies and you can have some. So come by, come visit, shoot me an email, call my office phone. Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. But that's week one. So thanks for listening.